Let's listen into Nawaf Salam, the interim Prime Minister.
Would be a reformist government. I would like to stress the following points, which I keep it as a top priority. First, reform is the true path to development, and therefore the government needs to achieve safety and security according to resolution 1701 and monitor and follow up the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the entire Lebanese territories, and then continue with the reconstruction, which I have stated early on that it's not a promise but rather a commitment. Second, this government will restore confidence between the citizens and the state and between Lebanon and its Arab and international spheres and Lebanon. And this government will be a hope of the youth to feel that their dreams can be born and attained here in their homeland. Third, believing that Lebanon needs a major national workshop, the government, in collaboration with the House of Representatives, will have to continue implementing Al-Ta'if Accord and continue with the financial reforms, economic and fiscal reforms. These fundamental matters requires the establishment of a robust judiciary. The formation of any government is hard to satisfy all parties. However, this is a starting point where all members will work together. And I would like to reiterate that diversity in the members of the cabinet wouldn't be a source of hindering its duties in any way or form. And the government will not be an arena for competing, but rather a joint and constructive work. I know that the life of this government is limited. However, the suffering of people is not measured by the duration of governments. I keep before my eyes that we need to establish the needed foundations for reform and collaboration with the president, and based on the principles as he has established in his oath. We need to build a new Lebanon. We don't have any time to waste, and let's start immediately. Thank you.
All right, just a correction on what I said earlier. You were listening to the Prime Minister designate, not interim Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, giving us a sense of politically the direction the country is going. A huge speculation over the formation of the government there that will dictate the future of the country. Let's go live to Zeina, who joins us on the line from Beirut for the latest. Zeina, an awful lot riding on the makeup of the future government there in Lebanon.
Yeah. Okay. Is it going to answer questions?
Hi, Zeina. It's Neve Barker in the studio here. I'm just saying, we were just listening to Nawaf Salam. I was saying that there's a lot riding on whatever is decided by way of the future government of Lebanon. Give us a sense of the thorniest issues in being able to do that.
Well, there is no doubt Lebanon's new government faces daunting challenges. This country's economy has all but collapsed. The financial sector, the banking sector, they need to be restructured. People lost their savings in banks. The currency devalued. Unemployment is high. The middle class, they've left the country. The new prime minister promising to change all that, saying that his government is going to carry out reforms and that it is committed to carry out reforms. For the past 5 years, the political class refused to do just that because carrying out reforms implies losing control over state institutions, which they have been using to build their own power. So now the Prime Minister is promising a new beginning. He's a man who is not from the traditional political class. He was a man that the people, when people took to the streets back in 2019 and demanded change, this was their choice. This man was their choice. But he was really up against a political class who were resisting change. It took weeks for him to form this government, and it didn't come about through internal consensus. It came about because of international pressure. The United States sent an envoy yesterday, and she held meetings with the president, the prime minister designate, and the speaker of parliament. And it was after those meetings and after she made clear what the United States expects this country to do, that the government saw the light. In many ways, in her statement, the special envoy, there were implicit threats that the government is not ready and committed to carry out reforms and fight corruption and ensure that Hezbollah remains disarmed and militarily weakened, there is a possibility that the international community will isolate this country. So weeks of political bickering. But it was international pressure, really, that's key, that brought about the birth of a new government, which is very, very different from previous governments in the sense that the balance of power has now changed. Hezbollah and its allies no longer control the government.
And Nawaf Salam, the Prime Minister designate, also gave an indication on ending hostilities with Israel as well, on the agreement of UN Resolution 1071, dating back to 2006. Can you shed any more light on that and its significance, Zeina?
Well, a ceasefire came into force late November, putting an end to the deadliest conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. That UN resolution calls for an area south of the Litani River to be free of arms and fighters, and that non-state actors that the Lebanese army needs to deploy in that area. But the ceasefire agreement also makes reference to previous UN resolutions, which calls for the disarmament of all non-state actors in Lebanon across the country. So this is something that the international community will also be watching, whether or not the Lebanese army and the political leadership will ensure that the state will be the only entity that has arms in this country. The ceasefire agreement does also call for Israeli troops who remain in South Lebanon to leave. That deadline was extended to February 18. We heard from the U.S. Special Envoy in Beirut making clear that that is going to be a firm date and that the Israeli troops will withdraw on the 18th of February. But Lebanon now is under pressure to carry out its side of the agreement, and that is to ensure that Hezbollah does not return to the border area and that no other group, apart from the state, will have arms in this country. So, as you can imagine, a lot of challenges ahead for this new government. And like I said, the international community will be watching carefully because this country is in dire need of financial support, not only to revive the economy, but to rebuild what was destroyed during the war last year. And the cost of that reconstruction bill is in the billions of dollars.
So, Zeina, commitments from the new leadership in Lebanon, and also apparently from the Americans as well, that Israel will pull out of Lebanon on February the 18th. Obviously, the question is, will Israel honour that commitment as well? But I wanted to ask you very, very quickly about the future of Hezbollah. They're no longer going to be a political force in Lebanon. What happens to them now?
Well, Hezbollah was militarily weakened by Israel's war. There is no doubt it lost its leadership. The Secretary General was killed. His successor was killed. The military leadership was killed. The ceasefire came into force, but Israel continues to carry out strikes against what it says are Hezbollah's military assets. Hezbollah also lost its logistical and operational base, which was Syria. It was a major supply route for its arms. So Hezbollah is under pressure, but at the same time, we cannot not forget that Hezbollah has popular support in this country. And Hezbollah, along with its allies, control a significant amount of seats in parliament. So this is a force that is still to be reckoned with. And actually, everyone is eyeing the parliamentary elections next year because Hezbollah and its allies will be fighting for their political survival when those elections happen in a year's time. So you cannot write off a group which has, popular support in the country, along with its allies, say that they represent the Shia community, but the opposition believes that this monopoly came about through its arms. So really challenging days ahead. Lebanon has entered uncharted waters. Hezbollah was the most powerful political and military force in Lebanon, stronger than the state and stronger than the army. The objective or the goal of this government is to extend the state's authority across the country and ensure that, no other group will carry arms. So, and if Hezbollah does not cooperate, it's a recipe for instability in Lebanon. But, the politicians coming together, announcing this new government, yes, there was international pressure, but at the same time, it really signals that the group has been weakened.
Zeina, many thanks for walking us through all the twists and turns of Lebanese politics. Zeina Khodr in Beirut.